Nigerians continue to complain about the poor electricity supply 5 years after privatization.
And that's the bone of contention between the government and the 11 electricity distribution companies. What exactly do they want? Well, public affairs commentator Achike Chude will answer this for us after this break. Stay with us. All right, you're welcome back. Since the privatization of the power sector, electricity distribution companies, also known as DISCOs, have been the major receivers of blame for the sector's underperformance. Yeah, electricity consumers and government say the DISCOs are not performing as expected, prompting Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola's statement that if the DISCOs cannot provide electricity, they should vacate the operating scene for other investors. But this statement did not ruffle the expectant feathers, as rather than cave, the 11 DISCOs who complain of a debt burden say their operation has not been profitable and are even ready to sell off the business below the cost price. So they're calling on the Minister of Power, Works and Housing to meet with the investors to hear their challenges with a view to evolving possible solutions to the challenges in the sector. Yes, indeed. Okay, with us in the studio is a public affairs analyst, Achike Chude. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
Yes, indeed. Nice. All right, 5 years after privatization, 11 DISCOs, 1 trillion naira debt. DISCOs are owing about that to the bulk electricity, company.
Well, I think the natural reaction...
Any future?
Yeah, well, I think the natural reaction for somebody like me would be to say, well, I told you so. But it's much more serious than that. Like I've said several times on this forum, we are not exactly surprised about what is going on because if the foundation, which other things are built, the pedestal is not is rotten from the very beginning. You're not going to see, a clear manifestation of whatever intention one would have in the first place. And all of that. So if after about 5 years, of, coming and going of privatization and all of that sector of our energy industry, and we are now having this tit for tat, this brickbats between, the government and then the people who took over the distribution. Yes. Then clearly that alone tells you that all is not well. And if it has gotten to a level where the minister issues an ultimatum that if you don't like the heat, you get out of the kitchen. And they say, okay, we are very much willing to get out of the kitchen, but just give us our investments. And so, of course, that will be dependent on the agreements that were signed between them and the federal government in the first place. But obviously, the situation, the relationship has gotten tenuous. But what is important is that truism, that trite saying that when two giants fight, it is the grass that suffers. So we are the grass, and we have been suffering from the inconsistencies of what's going on in the power sector. But one would have expected, really, just like you rightly said, that when that ultimatum was issued, you think that because that is the only card, I think, at this level that the federal government has that can be played. And you expect that there will be shivering and shaking from the DISCOs. And all you get from the DISCOs is the impression one has is, well, it will be good riddance to bad rubbish. We, because what we have is nothing, to go on with and all of that. So that gives you a clear, impression that it has not worked. It has not worked. There's not that. How do you know it's not working?
Both sides
There's no light anywhere.
Yes, exactly. From reports we got just distribution companies even ready to quit and ready to sell, and so on. Now, from reports we got today, Government is about to inject about 72 billion into the distribution of discos, and is appointing TCN to handle it. TCN and discos have not really gelled well in the first place. How do you look at all of this?
Well, first of all, when the order was given for them to either take it or leave it as is, they said this is not the first time. There is nothing new about this. That they had issued 2 force majeure in the past, asking the government to give them back the money. So what the minister is saying is something that they themselves had already said, to the government, before now. And there was something that prompted this response from me. What was it again? Just remind me.
In the question I asked earlier, because I was making reference to the Just Distribution Company who is ready to sell, and they're ready to quit the scene.
And they're actually heavily indebted.
Yes, they are. But the report we got today, the 72 billion.
Look, and don't forget there have been other interventions. So far, I think we've had about over 1 trillion naira intervention in the electricity sector, all of that. Even though people are questioning the basis of that, since these are private, enterprises, concerns and all of that. But the reality is this: you could say, okay, what is government's business? Yes, like you said, the discos are not exactly gelling with the TCN. We've had this acrimonious relationship all this while. Same thing also they have with the bulk distribution companies, trading company, the Gencos and the rest. So why give it to TCN? Well, maybe the answer lies in the fact that the money belongs to the federal government. Okay. And
TCN is
a federal government agency. So to some extent it makes sense. And part of that money, from what we are told, is because we still have serious problems with with the distribution companies. They do not have the right kind of facilities that are needed to ensure better distribution of energy, at least in terms of the quantum that is given to them.
But one would have imagined that from the get-go, both sides, the discos, would have understood, after studying the whole environment and the whole system, what exactly they needed for for them to take off successfully. And government on its part too should have been able to say, look, yes, this is what is required. Do you have this on ground? Because experts have said, look, the haphazard way of unbundling the PHCN in the first place is at the root of this, and that is why the power sector continues to experience this stunted growth.
Well, I think the story is changing, really. We all know that there was this friction between National Union of Electricity Employees, NUE, at a time, with Joe Ajero, who was the certain General Secretary of NUE, being in the eye of the storm. And at the time, the workers refused for them to take over these companies. They believed that it would not serve the best interest of Nigerians and all of that, but they insisted. And I think it took a combined deployment of soldiers and the police and the DSS to most of the generating plants to get some of these people to look at installations and all of that, the distribution, transmission and generating levels, and so they used force to take these people there, these investors, and they looked at the whole place and the rest. But we know they did that, but they're telling us today that they did not have a proper look at the power infrastructure facilities as at that particular point in time. It was hurriedly done. They didn't really show them. They didn't see exactly what and how deep the rot is. These are excuses. If you didn't see it, I mean, we shouldn't accept this kind of, if you didn't see it, if you didn't know the depth of the work that needed to be done, you understand? That means you are not sure of the returns on investment.
What you have not seen.
Exactly. And then they went ahead and bought it, and now we are having, stories here and there. But part of the problem again is the fact that there's a dilemma, and I think we discussed this the very last time I was here to talk about this, issues going on, is the fact that, they are saying that they have a deficit, of about 1.3 trillion between what they are charging now and what they should be charging. And I think from what they are telling us, they are charging about 34 naira per kilowatt hour, while the, proper price should be fixed at 84 naira or 86 naira per kilowatt hour and the rest. And that is why they are, losing about 1.2 trillion. But where does that factor the overestimation that they have deliberately been doing all this while? Their refusal to give, proper meters to citizens so that they can continue to fleece them. And like I said the very last time I was here, that if you look at it on estimation alone, that they should be owing people about 1 trillion. Nobody's talking about returning the monies they have illegally stolen from Nigerians. You know, that is not part of what's on their agenda. But if you want to talk about equity and fairness and so on, it is only right that you say, look, and that's what a government that is committed to the interests of its citizens should be doing. You understand? You give back the money to the people. And as for the issue of the government doing something about the price, I don't know what's going to happen without, you know, inviting absolute crisis in the country. As it is, they are not performing. As it is, they are not delivering. And yet they want to keep on increasing. They have increased several times in the past. In fact, at a time when the court insisted that they should go back to a former price regime, the minister or the Ministry of Power had sided with the discos and asked them I mean, from the feelers that we got, to disregard the direction of the court in order to help them to retain that price. Now the price is not right, they are not delivering. So what would be the basis, for instance, of making an argument for another increase in the price of electricity, when it hasn't improved? When all over the country, from Lagos to Taraba to Enugu to Edo and the rest, people have risen up in arms against, you know, what they see as a lack of, you know, electricity to their homes and all of that, and the exorbitant prices they have to pay for power they did not consume. So this is the contradictions that they have found themselves in.
But government, on the other hand, who is supposed to take final credit if there is light everywhere, who is supposed to take the final benefit if there's light everywhere, doesn't seem to be able to come and handle this issue once and for all, whether it is by policy, whether it is by sending, whether it is by strategy, as the case may be. Is government really overwhelmed when it comes to the ideas and how to handle these issues once and for all?
Or does government even know what to do in the first place?
I think government is overwhelmed on all fronts. I know that we're talking about, you know, energy, but the reality is that we don't want excuses. And the irony again of it is that the man who is heading the power ministry, perhaps that was why he was given that ministry, told us, I mean, that any government that is not able to deliver on electricity within 6 months does not have any basis for remaining in power. So today, and that is the irony we are seeing today, he is in charge. The government has put over 1 trillion naira of our money, the public money, into this process that has returned nothing, you know, to the people. And so people are sitting down and they are looking back and they are saying, look, but what is the difference between what we have now and what we had before? You know, I'm very sure, very, very sure that under the old NEPA arrangement, that the monies that have been given to the discos will not have been given to them, even though it was, you know, wholly, you know, public companies and all of that.
What about the World Bank support, you know, of $2.6 billion? Do we know if that has been
I think the Power Recovery Fund,
yes.
I think,
Yeah, the Power Recovery Fund, exactly.
This
has that been injected, I mean, or is still a promise?
I don't know, but what I know is that what has been injected so far, we have not seen in terms of the result and all of that. So there are attempts everywhere to see what can be done. But obviously, the privatization exercise is not working in this country. I mean, the BPE told us about 5 years ago that out of the 350 companies that were privatized, only 10 are working at minimal capacity. So what does that tell you? That is absolute failure of the privatization exercise. And what most of these people have done all this while is that they just take over these you know, institutions and so on, but they are not ready to continue, you know, to deliver what they were delivering.
And you know what, Achike today, not to sound alarmist, I mean, experts are saying that Nigeria's power sector faces a gloomy future due to lapses in the electricity value chain. So it's not looking good at all from where we're standing right now.
No, it's not. It's not. And I think the Achilles heel or the weakness, I think, is essentially the discourse.
Yeah. All right. We'll have to leave it there.
Achike today, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.